That kind of cut off a lot of water
15,
too for
20
the
years ago,
town.
They capped that off. 'Cause
Where the EMS station is, or?
Yeah, you
Okay.
go up the end of that road.
Yeah, they used to have the pond
There's
there.
a
It was-
ballpark and a little
That's all
park
spring
area
fed.
Yeah,
there.
dog park and stuff.
Yes.
I heard that.
Yeah.
There was another one right up on the corner of Staley Road and, Turner Road and
Turner
Turner
and
Road and
Sta-
Soper.
and
That's still there if you want to try to
Yeah.
go get it.
In the swamp.
I don't know if I
know
trust
about
that. That's a little.
Yeah.
All right, we're at 6:30. I appreciate people coming and looking for some input. Way we're gonna run is you have an option. You can either write down some information you'd like to pass along if you're not comfortable talking to us. Pads are right back there with some pens, and the other way is you can talk to us verbally. We ask everything be done with no names. We don't want, if you have something going on, we don't want any names given as to who is involved. And also be constructive to help us. We're not looking for condemnations or condemnations or anything else. So, and we are limiting to 3 minutes at this time for talk, just so we make sure that everybody gets a chance to talk to them. So, is there anybody that would like to talk to us about anything?
Who's gonna go first?
I can talk about the horses.
Okay.
I know situations where throughout the country, it's always been a big controversy on how much land you should have for horses. Some people go anywhere from half an acre per lot up to 1 to 2 acres per lot. Some people they do have horses in less land than that. But my feelings are like half an acre per horse is like a good minimum recommendation for anything new going in. Obviously, anything that's already existing should be grandfathered in. And, but that's, like I say, but they, as long as they maintain it, the horse is well fed, kept clean, everything like that, it's, that can be done very easily. So.
Thank you.
Now, when you're talking half acre, are you talking about half acre of open area?
Yeah. Well, I mean, my feeling, it could include like the barn or whatever. The barn, pastures, paddocks, whatever, not necessarily but set aside for the horses. So somebody probably would need more land than that for the house and whatever, but.
So run-in sheds would be included because they're open areas for the
Running
horse?
shed, barn, whatever, yeah.
As long as the barn is accessible to them, right? Because you're talking
As long
about
as they
having,
have something accessible.
and open outdoor arenas? Or indoor arenas?
Yeah, I mean, for the whole, yeah, I mean, they as long as they have,
Basically enough room to work the horse, kind of,
to work, so they can get some
Exercise, yeah.
exercise. They don't necessarily have to, I mean, some horses can't have pasture anyways, but they should at least have some room to move around.
Space, yeah.
Space, yeah.
Like what we were talking
Yeah.
about, like with the gates, and they got that horse, and they got one of those cheapo, covered, those shelters.
Shelters,
It's not
yeah.
even, like a barn for them to go in, it's just
Yeah.
a shelter.
So, yeah, it's,
As long as they got covering out of the wind.
Yeah, but in the summertime with the sun beating on that gets hot. Shelter.
Anything else you can think of?
nope.
Okay. Jason, you got anything?
Yeah, I'm just kind of. One of the things I'd like to see is some sort of limit on the height of the landfill. I mean, there's got to be some sort of limit. I mean, if you come off the Baker Road down and you look toward Lion Mountain, that sand hill is kind of almost taking your view of the gorgeous mountains we have. We're looking at this, landfill. So I think there ought to be a limit on how high it is. Just a suggestion. And regulations on mining and mining operations that go on in our town, I think should be highly regulated rather than just letting them slip by, and hours should be regulated. I mean, it's quite noisy, and there's nobody who regulates noise. There's no noise ordinance. And mainly the enforcement problem is what we have is how do you enforce it and who does it?
That's what I was gonna ask. Do you think the problem's more regulation, or do you think the problem's enforcement?
Well, I think it is a lot of enforcement because, I mean, it's a really vague situation. I mean, I've complained a lot about the mining operations and I haven't seen any enforcement. I've seen a lot of talk but no action. So it's kind of upsetting to me because it basically surrounds me.
Sure.
And our town should be known for mining and sand and those kinds of things. It's kind of disheartening, and we kind of want to leave something for the future for our kids other than a big hole in the ground, because that's basically what you're leaving them now. Because if you look at your aerial photographs, you can see all the sand pits that we have here. I mean, it's kind of getting to the point where I think we need to say no more. Because I mean, I can see some from up on 22B looking down at the peak of the hill. I can see the one next to me. So it's kind of an eyesore basically. And the regulations are pretty slipped by around here. I just don't see any enforcement.
So the DEC regulates mines.
But they don't. See, we're back to this because I've complained about this before, and DEC says that the town's supposed to regulate hours. So DEC doesn't regulate hours, the town's supposed to regulate hours. So it's a flip-flop back and forth between the two. Who's going to take control and who's going to enforce? Because I actually gave a couple letters to Mr. Randall last night from DEC that they had sent me, which were kind of pretty farce kind of accusations that they kind of threw at me, which didn't make any sense. It was kind of off the wall kind of stuff that I don't even believe that actually happened. So it's very interesting to see how they come up with excuses of why they can do what they can do.
In regards to noise, is it overall noise, or is it like because of the time of day?
Well, basically, during the day, if you've ever been
has-
on Mason Street during the day, you have Casella trucks, you have dump trucks, you have
Sure.
blacktopping trucks, you got all these construction vehicles, heavy equipment goes through there, and it's
Okay.
constant noise. And
Because
it's
I know we do
45
have-
miles an hour, and you know they're going faster than that.
Yeah, and I
So-
noticed that on Sand Road actually yesterday too.
It is pretty busy
Some
and
trucks
it's
lined up,
noisy,
you know.
and it's really coming to the point where, I don't even know if I want to stay there because it's so noisy. I mean, at nighttime it's great, but,
Okay.
Monday through Friday, it's pretty busy.
I was gonna say, because I believe we already have a zoning. Do we already have one on the books that limits operating businesses from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Right?
On Saturday, they can operate from 8 o'clock till 2:30.
Yeah, but it's through the town.
The mining
yeah.
operations,
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
the
So
town.
the town itself, I think, is 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. So they're not in there like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, right?
Well,
They have been.
they have been, because I've been complaining about that, but nobody does anything. So, again, we're back to the hours being enforced.
Yeah. So enforcement. Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
And the dust.
Yeah, well, I
And the
mean, that's all
rocks
part of the
hanging off.
mining operation. I mean, that's part of DEC
So
regulations
if
are supposed
someone was
to
to
be.
walk down the street and you got those trucks going by, they're flinging all that stuff at you. So it's, it's a safety thing too.
So those are kind of my main two concerns, basically.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very much.
Is there anybody else, Richard or Mike? Mike, correct?
Yeah.
Do you have any input on current zoning laws or things you'd like to see changed or updated? Or
I was just interested in getting to know how to get on both the board itself and the advisory committee
sure,
to get more involved on that level.
I'll defer that to Howard.
We will look into that.
I sent an email actually last year
Okay.
expressing interest in it,
Sure.
and I was told that I would be kept informed, and I never got notified of anything or.
Yeah, they had, so if you don't mind me answering this, they had the zoning committee, I think has been advertised on the website now for, I believe, a couple years now, even ever since Rick Potiker was supervisor. However, we haven't met, we didn't meet until what, March?
March.
Yeah, so it's fairly new. The committee is fairly new. It's only, a couple months old, so.
Because April of last year, I'd sent,
Sure.
I exchanged emails with Kevin, and he had said he'd forward it, and I'd be kept in the loop, but I never got informed of anything after that. So.
Okay. I will look into that.
I could forward you those emails too to
Okay.
make you aware.
Okay.
Perfect.
Are there any requirements, or what is the process of, if there's a seat open, how do you guys go about selecting?
For which one are you talking about? For this committee? Or for the zoning board?
The zoning board.
Okay, if you put your name in last night, it will be, I believe it goes to the zoning board to have them review, and if they're okay with it, they'll present it to the town board for approval.
And when you say okay with it, like I'm a retired teacher, we pass
Yep,
all background checks
yep.
or anything like that, like
Yep.
would the basis of being okay or not okay with it depend upon? Like what's the smell test is what I'm
That
asking.
is, you know, as long as they're comfortable working with you and everything else, it's, and they're comfortable with what you present for everything, then they would recommend that you be appointed to the committee, or to the zoning board.
Okay, and is there somewhere I can find a list of the people that are on it?
Yeah, I believe it's probably if you get a hold of the clerk during the day,
Right.
they'll have it.
Yeah.
It was on the website. On the
Yeah,
old
right now
one,
though,
but I
like we
don't-
talked about last night,
It's
right?
not. It's
Right?
not on
Yeah.
on the one that they just did.
I would, what's tomorrow, Thursday?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely do it tomorrow. Cause
Yeah,
it
if you
wouldn't
call Sheila, ask for Sheila, she'll be able to answer, or Mary. The clerk is on vacation this week, so.
There's no pamphlets out there in the doorway.
be- there might be. I'm not
has
sure
all
what they
the
have out
names
there right now.
for applications and stuff like that out
Could be.
there in the doorway. I know there's a few things out there for zoning.
Yeah, so I don't know if you went over on that side of the town hall, but there's like a town community bulletin board that has a lot of information over there. If you haven't been over there, I'd be happy to go over there with you after the meeting.
So there's no formal application to fill out with
Not that I
all
know.
your information. And
That I'm not sure.
Oh, I still
Yeah,
haven't-
none of us are on the zoning board that are currently in this room, right?
No.
Right.
No, this
No.
is purely just the zoning advisory committee. So we're just common citizens that are just brainstorming ideas. We don't have any power to make
Yeah.
change per se.
and how do you fill the other seats on this board?
So this board, I believe, is full.
Right
Is
now,
that
yeah.
correct, Howard?
That is correct.
And the maximum number of people would be 9?
What we have is 9.
But if the opening does come up, I will get hold of you immediately.
Thanks.
Let you know.
That.
Because the other guy, what was his name?
Peter?
No,
No,
Phil?
Ryan?
Ryan.
Ryan.
Yeah, he's pretty busy, that's why I don't know if he's gonna be able to.
Yeah, because he hasn't been to the last 2 meetings.
Yeah.
That's too bad because he had a lot of good ideas too.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to have varying
Yes,
backgrounds
absolutely.
too. Sure.
Richard, you got anything?
No.
So, well, maybe if Ryan doesn't, maybe you should contact him and see if he.
I will talk to Ryan and
if
see
he's
what
gonna be
his
too busy
feelings
and
are
then-
about staying on or not.
Can you be on both boards or?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Matter
yeah,
of
because
fact,
there's
the,
members of
Frank
the,
is, right?
Frank is on the zoning board.
Frank's the chairman.
and the planning
he's on
board.
here.
We have both members of the
Yep.
planning board and the zoning board.
Correct.
That's also on
And
the
the
committee.
secretary of the planning board.
I'm just a resident. I'm on none of them, just
Same.
this.
Well, how do you get the fancy seat?
She's just on this one. Same with me.
Yep,
Well, then don't say just a resident. Say I am a resident. Want to
I
serve.
am a resident. And I've been asking since 2019 to be on this.
Yeah, like I said, it has been advertised
'Cause-
for quite a while since.
Because I had a lot of
supervisor.
concerns about the zoning and things that were going on in the town, like wood boilers, smoking people out, using them in the summertime, residential areas.
Yeah, that was kind of another issue, is the excessive smoke, you know, bothering somebody. I didn't know if that, because I know there's a law already about burning leaves, but I don't ever see that enforced, because I see a lot of people burn leaves.
Sure.
So that creates a lot of smoke, and it does disturb the outside activities that you try to have.
So it sounds like a lot of your concerns are not in regards to necessarily the regulations that we already have on the books now, but the
What's kind of
enforcement of
enforcement?
those regulations.
Exactly. I mean,
Yes.
you shouldn't be making more rules if you can't enforce the ones you already got.
That's kind of what I would, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna be honest about this part right now is up until this last person in, we've always had a constable. And that is part of the problem with the town is in order, if you have a town law, you have to be able to enforce the town law. If you don't have a constable, you don't have anybody that can go out there and enforce it. The Sheriff's Department says the same thing on noise ornaments.
I know that's a real problem, yeah.
Yep. That they would enforce it, but we have to initiate it.
Right.
So can I ask why we don't have a town constable at the moment?
I don't know exactly how to answer that other than the person did not want to do it.
I'm wondering if there's something.
Is
on
it,
this-
it's usually a blended role is what
Yep.
you're telling me? Okay, all right.
What is that usually blended with?
Would be
Code
code enforcement officer.
Right. And that's, I think, a conflict of interest is I think we should have a code enforcement officer that is just for the town of Schuyler Falls, not for two different towns. So I do think that's a conflict of interest.
That's extremely common though. I mean, other than the full-time
That's a-
departments.
Just, I don't mean to interrupt you, but those two towns that we have are good sized towns, so it's kind of hard to be all over them within a week's time, within a 5 day, that's a big area to cover in order to watch and see and enforce
Yeah, and I'm
everything.
not trying to argue, I'm just trying to brainstorm with you, but like, so our code officers only here, what, half a day a week?
That's another problem that I think.
I mean, aside from how many other towns he serves, is it in our town's best interest to have him on staff more than the time he's already in?
I know a lot of
I think
towns.
so.
That's probably part of it, right? It's just how much money
Right.
can we spend?
Salary.
Well,
salary.
he makes a lot of money, so a lot of towns have him there 4 days a week. So I don't see why if we're
town-
paying him
the
that
town
we're
of
paying him
Peru does.
$35,000 or over $30,000 a year. He should be there. I mean, that's not an unreasonable thing to ask. So I mean, it seems an awful lot of money for only a half a day. I understand he does other things in the field, but still.
Well, maybe, like, the town of Ticonderoga, I know, the code enforcement officer, they just appointed a new one, and they made it where that is the only position that they hold, is that position for the town. They have no other jobs outside of it, so there's just strictly.
Like I say, it's
working for
a
the
pretty
town.
stressful job if you do really do it and
Right.
enforce it and do it properly.
Yeah.
And it does take a lot of time, and I can understand that. And I mean, at least 3 days a week or something, and just stick with the one town. That's a good focus to start with, I think.
I think there's some value in them serving other towns because it gives them a broader input into the issues that they face. Because I deal with towns all across the North Country, and a lot of towns don't see much happening. So how would a code officer that only serves that one little town have a breadth of understanding of some of the other issues? So I don't disagree that maybe our community needs more, but then again, how many building permits are we getting pulled? How many? I don't know what his workload is to say you should be here 3 days a week. I don't know. But in enforcement, that's a whole different ballpark. It's
The
how
town of
Yes.
Osable is a pretty
Yes.
good sized town, and they got a lot of problems of their own. So I think focusing on this town should be the main concern. That's what we're here for, right?
And I also, to play devil's advocate a little bit too, if we forced a code enforcement officer to be in the town hall, say 5 days a week, he wouldn't be able to get out and do his job.
Well, I'm not saying you force him to be there 5
Well,
days a week. Just have him on the books for 5 days a week. He could be out in the field 2 or 3 days a week. That's part of the job, and he still should get paid for those hours that he's out in the field. I agree with that.
Because you got to remember too that he gets a lot of phone calls. He gets called out at night when structure fires.
Oh yeah, I'm
Like
sure
that,
a
so-
lot of off hours. I understand that, but I mean,
I'm just
the focus with one. I'm just trying to focus with the one town rather than, like you say, now you're putting the workload on it and then double that, and that puts a lot of stress on somebody
Yes.
when you're doubling that. You're running 2 different directions, and you're quite a ways away between the two. So, like I say, that's a good stretch of area. You're talking 45 minutes between the two towns. I mean, someone calls you from here, and then you got to go over here. It's a good stretch. So.
Might be burdensome to have to know the codes and laws of 2 different towns or 3 different towns. That might overburden somebody. I mean, it's
Sure.
a legitimate argument saying that you'd be more exposed to different scenarios, but you can make the same argument for every job in the town. Like, it would be great if the mayor was mayor of 5 towns, then we'd know everything, but, you know, obviously he's
Yeah.
gonna have too much of a workload, and he'd have to know all the rules and regulations and issues of all those different towns. You know, so it might be something where sometimes you got to change up the whole game, like put a base number of hours and a base number of hours on call, or a base number of hours where you're in the office doing office duty, and then you have 10 hours a week allotted for enforcement, and if you need more, submit more and we'll do more, or something flexible where, you know, maybe you can entice somebody with a flex schedule is more important to them than an extra couple dollars an hour or something like that.
I think that, I guess my opinion on that would be that it seems as if that role, based on the pay and based on the hours that he's scheduled to be at the town, is that it's assumed that it's almost a part-time position. So I think you're implying that you would need someone that's full-time only in the town of Schuyler Falls, which means you're definitely going to have to pay them more than $35,000 a year to be a code enforcement officer when you can make $35,000 a year at Burger King.
Well, that's a toss-up you'd have to make. I mean, there's a lot of retired people who probably take that job.
Or it could
There's a lot of job openings out.
It could be $35,000 a year for 25 hours a week.
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
Sure.
you know,
Yep.
24 hours a week.
Rather
Even
than
20
4.
hours
Yeah.
a week.
But is he already doing 20 hours a week? By the sounds of it, he probably is, by getting called out.
But he's
during the
only here
night,
for
and he's-
4, so where is the other time spent? I don't know. I mean, that's
Sure.
what I don't know.
Is
and
there any
that's-
accountability for that
Sure.
other
Yes,
time?
there
or
is.
you just
He
take
does the report. He's got to credit everything.
I would think that those probably would be better questions for the town board.
Yep, absolutely.
I have a out of left field question maybe. I moved into my house about 18 years ago, and I think it was in November. So it wasn't until the following spring that the house started shaking and moving, and I found out that I'm directly diagonally behind the racetrack.
Airborne over there?
Yeah. So how did that happen, and what's the noise enforcement, or
Where's
is
Mike
that-
when you need him, right?
Is that grandfathered? I'm sure this is probably an issue that has been laid to rest because apparently it's been there at least 20 years. You know, that I've been there, and probably 100 years before that. But
That was
I-
Part is.
I can't imagine
The track is
anybody.
actually in the town of Schuyler Falls.
Scholar Falls.
I can't
that's what
imagine
I thought.
anybody today
It's fair
starting
enough.
up a business like that and being able to literally shake the houses sometimes with the race cars. And urban legend has it, if you complain, you get a free season ticket or something. But
Just be thankful you live here before the air base was here, because when the air base was here, you'd hear those planes land,
Yep.
and they'd wake you up in the middle of the night.
Well, I'm sure
So-
Schuyler Falls and Morrisonville was quite louder when the Clinton County Airport was in operation
Yeah,
as well.
too.
So.
Right, but no, the air base was a lot
Oh,
worse. than-
yeah, absolutely, absolutely,
the air
absolutely.
base is serving the community.
But that
protecting the
puts
nation.
nothing
That's
on,
different
once the
than
race cars are going, that's
Yeah,
nothing compared to that.
no, it's different than a commercial.
I would
operation.
imagine they have some sort of special use.
Airborne Racetrack was actually started by Morris Broderick, and I would say that you're probably looking at 60 to 70 years that it's been in existence. It used to be called the Granddaddy Half Mile of NASCAR. That's
I'm
how
not
it
trying to
was.
get it shut down. I'm just
Yeah.
interested.
No,
in
I'm
the
just saying,
history and,
it's not a short-term thing. That is one of those that has been there for, yeah,
It's got some good
Forever.
history. It's,
But
forever.
it's a nice track.
Forever.
There should be a disclaimer when you buy a house within a mile radius of it, like on the for
They
sale
they
sign.
should have told you ahead of time.
Yeah,
before you moved
the
in.
realtor
Yeah.
should have been up on that one for you. So,
I'm sorry about that, unfortunately.
Better question for the tax assessor.
Yep.
Saturday night.
That's an excellent point.
There you are, right?
All right.
Yeah, I mean, not only does that predate zoning, but we don't have anything in zoning for racetrack.
We don't.
Oh, wait a minute. That's got to be zone commercial, right? I wonder if my house is zone commercial.
Well, we have that.
Let's look at the map.
I don't want to sidetrack you too much. I'm on.
No, this is what this is
that's-
for. That's what this
that's
meeting is
fine.
for. So.
I'm 14 Christensen Drive, so there's a little bit of woods in between us. So if you made a line from the racetrack to Salmon River Road, you'd
Okay, I know
Right,
exactly. Yeah, okay.
Christensen Drive and Nancy Drive.
What is the railroad tracks going on?
This is the current use.
I think so.
I would think it would have to be residential because I mean you have that street Goodspeed Road, which is literally right like next to is it Broderick Road that Airborne is on, and I mean there's houses all the way up and down that
Just trying to
road,
think
which is in between you and the track,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
There are some businesses in that district though.
Oh, sure,
Yeah,
sure,
some stores and stuff that were there, so.
sure.
That is one thing that we did talk about, is the areas
Well,
that
so
are like,
here's
here's
22.
industrial. On Mason Street, you have some of the areas where those
Yeah,
pits
some
are
of those businesses
industrial.
that was there before there.
Well, like he said though, the Airborne is unique too because it's actually part of two
Grandfathered in
towns.
that way.
Right.
Part of the property of Airborne is part of the town of Plattsburgh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and also the
right,
town of
it's right
Scholar
there.
Falls. So.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
So you live right on the edge of Scholar Falls.
Well, who takes precedence if your business is the percentage of the business? If it's 80% in one town, they get it, or
That would probably be a better question for the town board because that I would not know. It's a great question though. It's definitely something we could forward on.
So we're looking at rural residential. Right.
No, actually, that's the dark. Yeah, rural residential too.
The racetracks was there long before zoning laws
Yeah.
existed in this town though, right?
Christensen Drive is about 158, Salmon River Road 162. Salmon
So yeah,
River
that's
Road.
all Hamlet residential.
Yeah, you're right on the town line,
That's,
pretty close, right?
residential too. This is Hamlet residential, darker.
Oh, sorry, yes, right.
Rural residential.
too.
So it's rural residential.
Yeah.
Very few
Commercial.
And it has the.
But I mean, that's a good question. If there's other lands in the town that are suitable for racetrack, should that be something that the zoning
When you have,
ordinance covers?
For future, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a great idea.
Just like airports, it's the same kind of thing, you know, if it's a smaller one or just a single plane and it's a field, instead of them developing, you know.
Okay. Come up with
Good
any
point.
other thoughts on horses, livestock or anything?
Because a lot of it's already pretty well regulated by agricultural laws anyway, so it's,
Sure.
I don't know how much.
Well, we kind of discussed the last meeting of there are no animal husbandry
Animals,
rules in here of trying to evaluate what should be the appropriate animal husbandry for the town, whether it's, you know, regarding various forms of livestock, where they're allowed, where they shouldn't be allowed, how many you should be able to have. So that's something we're gonna dive
Need
into.
input, yeah.
yeah, I know like the town of Peru, you're not allowed to have chickens in the town and stuff, like no horses or anything like that. Just the one guy, as soon as they get in there, is grandfathered in. That's the only
Right near
reason.
the school there.
He's the only one that can have him because he's grandfathered in.
Got goats
Now, are
and
you
everything.
talking about the town or are you talking about the hamlet?
The town,
The whole town?
inside, I think it's the village.
It's a
Yeah.
hamlet, yeah.
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 Yeah, Peru's
Yeah.
not
I know a lot of places are allowing like a few chickens for personal, for not for like commercial for selling and stuff like that, but a lot more places are, but that's
It's something to think
well, I
about.
don't
if
know.
you-
Yeah, but I
No,
don't,
it's-
a lot of people wouldn't be happy with a rooster waking them up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Especially if it
I
was
have
right
that at my
here,
house.
Yep.
you know, with
That's
all
what I mean,
this,
like in the village
In
of
the village,
Morrisonville, you know,
right.
if you'd want to have
Yes.
chickens right in it, you know,
or
'cause-
pigs.
because then where you're gonna put the
Donkeys.
feces and everything else too, that's something else you gotta think of too.
That's what I think Pete was talking about. There's certain towns that have regulations of, yeah, within like the hamlet, you can't have a rooster. Right. So
Right.
if your
can have a
neighbors are
couple
really
hens.
close, then
Right.
you should be protecting noise from your
I
neighbors.
believe that was the town of Osable, I think, was what we did.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the Schuyler Fall, there's no prohibitions against having a goat or a couple dozen chickens or.
As far as I know, there's not, right?
Nothing.
You could have 10 cows on your property, right?
Yep, there's no zoning for that.
Interesting.
Unless you're running a kennel or an animal
A
hospital.
lot of the zoning laws, and correct me if I'm wrong, were written in 1972. And obviously Schuyler Falls is an agricultural community, so You know, it
Needs
wasn't.
updating, yeah.
It's turning more into I would consider a betting community, but that wasn't the case 50 years ago. So
And the other thing, we want people to come here, and
Correct.
we want people to live here and enjoy living here. You
Absolutely.
know, we want them to have nice, clean air and stuff like that.
Anything else, Jason?
I think I'm pretty good.
Okay. That's unusual. Usually you got 4 or 5 subjects.
And that's why I told him he can start going to the meetings.
right, proxy.
And I'm not saying names, but I do know of somebody that was actually in the town of Plattsburgh side that had a miniature horse that was fighting with the town because they were trying to say that the miniature horse was a farm animal, but he was saying that they're more like a pet. So, but that's something that if it comes up, you might want to think about and make a
Absolutely.
decision
Like
on.
pot-belly pigs. Our boss used to have one, and it went in and out of the house like a dog or a cat and that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
I've seen horses like that.
Is there a
Miniature
difference
horses,
between
the
livestock
miniatures can
and
actually
therapy
be
pets?
litter trained.
That would be
I've seen
something,
that.
that is something we'd have to address because therapy pets,
Right.
Yes.
what they're doing now is miniature horses they're using a lot more of because
For blind
dogs
people.
We
like,
saw us do that.
yep, the dogs,
Versus like farm
might-
animals.
9, 11 years. A miniature horse, you're talking 25, 30 years, 40
Sure.
years.
So we should have something in regards to that.
So-
Therapy pets
You
versus
have to
like
have-
farm animals.
Versus livestock, yeah.
Yes.
Right, and usually the therapy minis are also trained for indoor
They
living.
can be litter trained, yeah.
Really?
It's fascinating,
Yes.
actually. Wow,
Goats, pigs.
no kidding.
And they're actually
Rabbits.
using them for
Pigs I've heard of. I guess pigs are just like a dog.
seeing eye horses and everything else,
Yeah.
so.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, we saw a demonstration on it before, so it was,
No kidding. Therapy pets versus livestock.
Something to think about with that.
Is there a general philosophy about the zoning, whether we're trying to make it more permissible for commercial use, or are we trying to keep it more restricted? Or how we arrive at the numbers of, how many businesses we want versus how many houses versus how many commercial? Like, I'm sure there's formula that, to maximize, optimize what the right ratio is for each to sustain a business, to sustain agriculture, and have the right number of residential mixed in. Is all that being considered? And
It is being considered and we are looking at several different things. The biggest thing is we want to look at is the feasibility of the land available and what's around it to start with, so.
and the water tables and things like that, how
Everything.
it affects it. I'm really interested in promoting communication with the rest of the residents, because I talk to neighbors and stuff, and I know there's a certain number of people that are interested in things like this, but a lot of them have no idea that they can get involved. They have no idea how to help, no idea even if they want to be constructive and participate. The knowledge isn't out there, and we're not doing a great job of getting it out. Maybe like a mass mailing to the residentials once a year, just a pamphlet or something saying this is how you could get into the community and be more involved and make it more transparent. Like have a list of the town meetings, even if it's a 1 or 2 page thing. Something like that might be worth the cost, because right now between like somebody mentioned, nobody gets news, not nobody, but hardly anybody gets newspapers
Correct.
anymore.
Right.
It's
And,
yesterday's news at this point, yeah.
and if you're over a certain age, you're a lot less likely to get onto the website. And if you've gotten onto the website, I know you guys have been saying it's recent, but I think I remember, 3 or 4 years into my stay here, which is 15 years ago, getting on the website and it not working. I mean, never bothering to go back because the website was basically useless. And fast forward 10 years and, again, part of it's in Spanish. Part of it has advertisements, and for some reason it's a .com instead of a .gov or a .org or a .ny like most of the other towns I looked at. I'm not sure why it's a .com and why it has advertisements.
.com has to do with, I was told it had to do with security. So I work for the county, and even the Clinton County is a .com. It's ClintonCountyGov.com.
Right, you have the .gov and then the
No, there's no .gov. It's ClintonCountyGov.com.
Yeah, okay.
So there is no .gov.
Okay.
And it had to do with security was what we were told. So I know Schuyler Falls, I believe it was a .net. I don't know if it still is.
No, it's a .com, but
It's
it's
a .com now?
interesting that there's advertisements on there, and advertisements generally generate income for
Sure.
the webmaster. So who's getting the income from those ads in Spanish for car insurance from the town of Schuyler Falls website?
That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Does anybody know off the top of their head, so I don't have to do a freedom of information thing, what the budget is monthly that's put toward that? Cause
$75, isn't it?
yeah, because last night I just went on like Fiverr.com. Like, it used to be a hot topic that it's so easy to produce those websites now that people will literally do it for the base price of $5, but Fiverr.com now has extended plans, and the first 10 things that you see are all people advertising for under $100 to give you a commercial grade, working, clickable, interactive, website that, they'll have it done in a timely fashion and keep it running for you.
I believe it's $75 a month, but that's definitely something you could ask the town about. But.
I mean, if
But
everything
that's
was going flawlessly, there would be no
Sure.
issue with that, but I keep going back and thinking, maybe this is something that you could get a SUNY professor or, a tech school or somebody that would want to do it and maintain it. And, I just hopped on and looked at, small towns near Schuyler Falls, and 25 of them came up, and I looked at like Altona's and one or two other ones, and they all had working websites. I mean, it's not something that should drag on for weeks, let alone months.
I mean, unfortunately, you can't even read the dates that the signups for the sports are.
And it's embarrassing because at the bottom it
It
says
is embarrassing.
important resources.
It keeps putting you back up to the top.
Yeah,
Everybody
ever since
puts
they
those-
switched
Yeah.
over, see, and that wasn't occurring like a month ago, because I registered my son for T-ball on the website a month ago. It wasn't until they made this switch over. in
The
last
old, the
couple
old
weeks.
website had more information than this
Correct.
one, so
Correct. I agree.
I don't know why they changed it.
I'm dating myself here. When I learned code, it was in BASIC and Fortran. Everything is HTML now and Excel and everything. But your basic websites in HTML, you literally see. I had a friend who's of average intelligence, and they knew nothing about websites. And on a Monday, he devoted that week to it. And by the end of the week, he had his own website up, and it was impressive, and it was running Wix, something like that. If you're saying that somebody's doing this professionally,
Sure.
then
Well, I would think for 75. I mean, even at $15 an hour, $75 a month is only 5 hours. So that's 1 hour a week.
it's literally 3 hours to set up and then 5 minutes to update everything.
But I think our contract with this guy includes him updating it, posting it, or whatnot. So I would think at 5 hours a month at $15 an hour, you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that's not doing it on like an intern base, I guess would be my argument to that.
I would say that sounds like it's in the right ballpark to have it done professionally and quickly and efficiently. In other words, it's not something that's
Sure.
It's not the magic that you might think it is. It's not that difficult.
No, I don't disagree with you, but I'm just thinking getting anybody to work for $75 a month, you're not going to get a lot out of
Even
it. I
if
guess you
you
get what you
define-
pay for. I guess the town wants to invest more money into the website.
Well,
They probably will get more out
the
of
way
it.
I think about it is it's about $1,000 a year. You're talking about $850, $900 a year, and you're talking about 10 to 20 hours of work max. So it's $50 an hour. In other words, if I was interested enough, I'd say I'd do it, but I don't work for less than $100 an hour. I either do stuff for free.
I think a lot of people will.
Either I do stuff for free or I charge $100
Sure,
an hour.
exactly.
I mean, all those years of engineering go to waste otherwise.
But even so, I mean, it's not that hard to update the Facebook page.
Oh, the Facebook page, I completely
Facebook
agree with
page
you.
is-
That's
That hasn't been
Yeah.
updated since the
Sure.
December when they had the little
When I
carnival
put
down here.
Pictures on
yeah.
there.
No,
I mean,
definitely.
that shouldn't be that hard to update.
No.
They should be able to put the meetings on there, the information on that. Very simple.
Yeah, Facebook is a little different, for sure.
A lot of people use it, so I'm just, throwing it out there.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have this meeting on the Facebook page announced, that people that did go on it, they would see it.
I'm not sure.
I think we need to have a different way to,
Even so-
to
even-
reach out to the residents to have
Even to put the
more
cleanup day
input.
on the Facebook page, the fact that, I know Kevin kind of rushed it, the 31st we're having bags put out, and then the cleanup day is the 1st of the 4th. That was kind of a rush. I mean, who's gonna know about it if you don't advertise it? I mean, you only got a week, not even.
Yeah, that's an awesome program, and nobody knows about it that I know of, other
Yeah.
than people that are in it. It's
Other than the people that come down and actually get involved in the town.
yeah, like I told my neighbors, and they're like, "Oh, that's amazing." I didn't have the exact dates for them.
Again,
I mean, between this hill here
Right
and
out
the
here.
little dip up by Broadwell Road, I could pick 3 bags of garbage, no problem.
Sure.
So, I mean, I don't have a problem doing it. I'll probably go up and we'll do it. But I'd like to have other people help
To
too.
help along, yeah, sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think a lot of your concerns, I think, are completely valid. It's just that us being a citizen committee, we don't have a power.
really have
We're
a say in
strictly
that.
brainstorming zoning laws. So I think a lot of your concerns are definitely going to be better served by the town board and obviously the town supervisor. Would you agree?
I agree.
but we can definitely, well, Howard,
We can
you could
pass
bring
those
this-
things on.
Oh, yeah.
We can
Oh, yeah,
pass
no,
those
I
things
still,
on.
I
for sure.
still think a little bulletin board or something out here we could advertise.
I'm
Little
trying to get the lay of
sign.
the land. Oh, sorry to interrupt you.
That's fine.
I'm trying to get the lay of the land, so I don't feel comfortable doing it yet. But if you had a quote insider, somebody in the know, you can set up an informal Facebook page and call it, Citizens of Schuyler Falls.
There is one called,
There is one.
There's one called Town of Schuyler Falls already,
Then we have to.
but it's not
get people-
updated.
Oh yeah. Well, no, I'm saying that's the official one. and
It is,
somebody
though.
Should be
It-
doing it. I'm saying you could start one called Citizens of Schuyler Falls, and if we can get enough people to join, it would be just as effective. It wouldn't be official, but it could be just as effective. If we can get 1,000 people in the group, start it out as a swap and trade group, and then switch it over to Schuyler Falls.
Right, like-
Bait and switch?
Yeah, do a bait and switch. And you can still keep doing the yard sale things too. But,
Yeah.
start up a group that people are interested in, and then transition it into both. That's something that I would do, but that takes time. Like, it's going to take me a couple months to understand all the dynamics of everything and how to best serve. But if somebody already knows,
We can continue these discussions, but should we not adjourn?
We can't adjourn until 7:30. As we said, we're going to do
6:30 to
7:30. In case somebody came in late.
Yep. So,
But I'm
that's
still
definitely an
open for
issue.
any more input for the zoning right now, too. So.
okay, then what about culvert piping and drainage ditches? I woke up one morning to find my front lawn turned into a drainage ditch, and some parts of the street got culvert piping and some didn't. Is that something, I understand the first thing is just make a request and say, hey, can I have some culvert piping, and see if they say sure. But something like that, the fact that there's no standardization, there's no saying either you can have it if you want it or not have it, or you can't have it, or this is the reason there is there or isn't there, etc., etc. It's definitely affecting my property value, and it's definitely affecting my access to the backyard, which is mushy and needs to be have trees cut down and stuff. Like, I can't get somebody with a tractor to go in there and help me do things that I need done in my backyard because of that culvert pipe. My neighbor was nice enough to let me go through his driveway, but my little dome house is for some reason closer to the road than any other house, so there's no egress in there except through the portion of the
That's what I
lawn
was just thinking.
that now has a
Yeah.
a culvert or an uncovered ditch in front of it that prevents vehicles from crossing it.
So those concerns really, I think, would be, like we were just discussing, are going to be better suited for the highway department.
Yeah.
They're not going to fall under zoning laws per se.
Well, zoning actually gives road frontage to certain lots that they can approve, or however they do that.
Sure, but I would think that the person going out and
But-
doing a site survey would be from the highway department, right?
Yep. Actual road frontage can be assigned by the zoning board, the zoning committee, not committee, but zoning. But when it comes to the culverts and everything else, that's gotta go through
That's
highway.
through the
Gotta go
highway.
through Mike Snyder.
Because they have to keep up on the current changes and everything else, what's permissible and what's not. I know a lot of them now are going to more plastic.
Well, that's obviously something that we can pass along too for you.
Yeah, no, I'm just
To the appropriate
thinking
people.
in terms, and it might not be something that you could address or can be a concern with zoning, but when you do things like that, that affects my ability to put a shed 15 feet away from a certain spot, or to abide by certain zoning laws or town ordinances. You know, something that I had no input about happening to my property that now impedes or affects, you know, my ability and my cost of, you know, abiding by the ordinances that are in place. So
That's
that
a
might
good
be
point.
something that is, well, sorry, this is the way it has to be, and I understand sometimes it has to be that way, but sometimes it doesn't, or it might be something that if it is well thought out, that it is more accommodating to the residents, and it might be a win-win situation. It might not be a, you know, this or that kind of thing. It might be, oh, everybody gets a better deal out of something.
Now, are you talking about actual road frontage area or on your own property?
It's hard to say because it's the surveys that have happened there. I would say if the surveys that have been done recently are correct, then I own half of my neighbor's garage on one side, and somebody owns a half of my because of the surveys, it's impossible to say where they are. And I haven't had mine surveyed, but somebody alongside mine did. So I'm not sure where my front property line is, but the implication is it would be on a wild angle. So that, I mean, I don't know, it's hard to.
Is it
describe.
are they roadside culverts or are they going?
Yeah,
like,
in other words, they're 2 feet back from the road's there. There's 2 feet of you know, parking space, or
Sure.
2 feet of parking
Also
space.
depend on the
Then
width of it.
yeah, so it's basically you know, barely paved road, no curve, then grass, then the culvert, and then my
Now, is
front
it-
lawn. But I used to think of the whole thing as my front lawn. I know that's just, you know, what was in my head, but.
is it like a natural ditch or is it actual metal culverts in there?
Oh no! Well, they came with.
So I was gonna say that's another
thing.
thing that you could request. I know that we have that issue down on River Street. Sometimes it's just a matter of just calling the highway department and saying, hey, you know, this ditch in front of my house is, you know, from mowing and from the winter and sand, just needs to be cleaned out. And I know the highway department's usually pretty good about coming out and cleaning them out.
Oh no! I'm saying that they came in and scooped out 3 feet of ground, so I can't run my car across there or a tractor across there. In other words, if they had dropped a culvert pipe like they did on some of the other
Gotcha.
properties and covered it up with a foot of dirt, everything would be level now. But you know, like if this is my house and this is the road, they dug the ditch in front of most of my property except for a little tiny driveway area that bets right up against my house. So there's no way to get from there into my backyard. It would have to be across that new ditch.
He needs to meet with Mike.
I mean, it's not an expensive fix. It's a piece of pipe that's probably sitting around in the shop anyway, and throw some dirt on there. I mean, it's not tens of thousands of dollars. It's an hour and $300 worth of material. But
I have something just to throw out there. We were talking about residents not mowing their lawns for a certain amount of time. Do you think there should be any zoning on that?
who ran me
The
out?
beautification law. I think it alludes back, if I may add, to what Jason was saying earlier, that we may be able to put, I agree with beautification law, especially in a hamlet. Who's enforcing them?
That's it.
With the price of gas, I don't think you'd be able to do that for people.
And
Yeah.
Who decides what's beautiful?
Right.
If
Plus
there's-
we're-
Well, you have beautification laws in the city of Plattsburgh, for instance. You have to keep your grass a certain height. If you don't,
Yes,
you can be
also have to
fined
keep the
$25.
sidewalk clean that you don't own.
But
You do.
Plattsburgh isn't
That's what you
Sure.
do when you go there.
Plattsburgh isn't agricultural though.
That's correct, but are we trying to stay agriculture, or are we trying to move more to a bedding community and a nice place for people to live? Because if that's the case, then we should be taking care of our neighbors and making sure
Okay,
that
if you're gonna bring that
the
subject
town-
up, then how about the manure spreading? The smell of the manure spreading.
Well, I guess you'd have to.
You want to talk
You'd
about
have to-
beautification? That was beautiful
you'd have
the
to
other day when I
dictate where
could
we're
smell it
talking.
everywhere.
We'd have to dictate where we're talking about, though. Are we talking about outside the hamlet, or are we talking about inside the hamlet?
Well, if I can smell it from my house, it's got to be pretty
Because
close.
there's not sidewalks going down Mason Street, but there's sidewalks right here in the village. So I would think that beautification laws wouldn't apply necessarily to the entire town of Schuyler Falls, but maybe to the hamlet of Morrisonville or the hamlet of Schuyler
But
Falls.
you can't tell this guy you can do it and you can't.
Oh, sure you can. That's why you have different zoning rules.
I don't know about that. I mean, that's kind of.
Actually, I like the idea of if you have a sidewalk in front of your house, then you're subject to beautification laws. If you don't have a sidewalk in front of your
I think that's
house,
I think that's a fair point as
Yeah.
well, because obviously Plattsburgh's not any different. With the zoning laws in the town are going to be different than the city. Rural areas are going to be different.
and you're going to come up
Right.
against arguments like every time I mention something, the code enforcement officer says, well, we have 20 feet out from the center of the road. Then my contention is you need to maintain that piece of grass there. If you're saying that you can do whatever you want to it, if I throw down grass seed and spend hours beautifying it and you're allowed to come in and scoop it up with a tractor at any time you want, then it's really not my responsibility to keep it beautiful.
Sure.
Like,
Like Mason Street is a 4-rod road. That's 33 feet from center line each way. So I mean, that's quite a bit of property that you own through there. So you're gonna tell somebody you have to maintenance my property?
Where are we talking about?
Right through down Mason Street. That's an old road. That's
Mason Street is not. There's not sidewalks going down Mason Street. I'm talking about the
Yeah.
hamlet of Morrisonville.
right here.
Right here, you're talking about. Well,
Yeah.
I mean the
That's part of
sidewalk
Mason Street. That's-
sidewalk ends right here.
But that road goes all the way to the bridge.
Correct.
That's 66 feet wide from there all the way to 22B.
Okay.
That's the same width the whole way, 4 rods. That's 33 feet from center line here in the village and outside of the village. So again, you're gonna tell somebody you gotta maintenance my property. That's your the town's property. You're gonna tell them that they have to maintenance it. I don't agree with that at all. It's like the city of Plattsburgh telling people that they have to trim their hedges and clean their sidewalks. I don't believe that's right. So then what are you gonna do? You're gonna come in and clean their sidewalk up for them and send them a bill?
I think that would be.
I mean,
up
that's
to the
basically what you're
taxpayers,
gonna say. That's what you're saying. That's gonna be the enforcement. We're gonna clean it up for you and send you a bill. I don't agree with that
I
at
think
all.
it should be based on, if you have grass and you let certain areas come up with flowers or wild strawberries or something for the turkeys or bees, that's fine. But if you have like a junk car or you got a bunch of garbage and no one is around and they just let it go, maybe they come once or twice a year, that kind of a thing. And the other thing we discussed were these large storage containers that a lot of people are getting now.
the shipping containers.
Yes.
I wouldn't be more concerned about the motorhome and stuff that's parked in the village and campers and stuff that sit there for too long.
I agree.
That kind of thing needs to
And
be
right
taken
now
care of.
it's 6 months that you can have a camper parked.
That you can live in the camper.
That you can
Correct.
live in it, right? It's 6
Not
months,
6
right?
months parked. It's 6 months living.
Living in it.
That's why they call
It's
them
very hard to
campers.
prove. Very hard to prove that someone's residing in a camper for
Yeah.
6 months.
Well,
But
I know of one that's pretty close by that's been there for almost 2 years now. So
Are they residing in it though for 2 years?
it sure looks it.
You're talking up that way?
No, I'm talking about right over
Right
here.
over
Yeah,
here.
there's one up that way too. It's all boxed in and they got an outdoor wood furnace hooked to it and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there comes to a point, and I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but if people can't afford to live, I mean, then they should ask for some help because that's kind of a health issue
It is.
more than anything
A
else.
lot of
Yeah, you
people,
and I talked
a
about
lot
that
of
last
people
meeting.
die.
I mean, if they have kids or
like
something,
that.
then that's
And
really a
kids
problem.
living
So,
in
I
that,
mean,
it's not
Harsh
fair.
winters.
yeah, and it's really cold in here in the wintertime, and you can't live it like that. That's just not a viable way.
You might want to set up mini debates and brainstorming sessions for things like that. Like if you want to push or not push, but if you want to develop a beautification law or something to deal with